Later this month, award-winning food writer Charlotte Pike is coming to Shaftesbury to talk about a dish many of us take for granted. She's written The Soup Solution. It's a book packed with 80 recipes designed to put soup centre stage.
I think soup is a wonderful, wonderful meal, but it actually gets a bit misunderstood. Some people, some restaurants don't make it particularly brilliantly, and I think that puts a lot of people off. So what I really wanted to try and do with the book is to really explain why and how to make fantastic soup.
It always seems in restaurants certainly to be a second thought. You go for lunch and it's a half a sandwich and the soup as an option. It's never the soup is the star attraction, is it?
No, I know, and I'm not sure why. I mean, some people, when they go to a restaurant, they would choose something that they think is possibly not a sort of everyday food as well. I very strongly believe that soup should not be a dumping ground for leftover ingredients. And actually, that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people don't tend to go for it, because they think that's what's happened. And there's nothing wrong with that, but often it does result in a mediocre result. So I think if you're going to make it, take care and over choosing your ingredients and make sure they're really fresh and in good condition to give you the best result.
Well, it's interesting because that's changing the mindset. If you go out with a specific shopping list to get stuff you don't already have to make a meal, and that meal happens to be soup, that puts it on a bit of a plateau, doesn't it?
Very much so. And that's what I want to do really with the book. And it doesn't have to involve expensive ingredients, anything complicated or difficult to source, but actually, you know, the secret to good cooking a lot of the time is in good shopping and good curation of ingredients. So by starting with good ingredients, you're giving yourself a much better chance of a much, much better result. So I think that's always really important to bear in mind, whatever one makes in the kitchen.
So following that, it's a special occasion, the cooking and the eating theme. What is your most considered soup? What have you got in a soup that you wouldn't have in the cupboard at home? You have to go out and get, but it is something that really lifts that meal because it's distinctive and unusual.
If I were looking to make something really special and elevate it, I'd probably look at something like a really, really nice truffle oil, which can be delicious in lots of soups like mushroom or maybe celeriac or even potato soup. It can be fantastic, but it needs to be a really good one. But actually, you don't need to spend a lot of money to really elevate soups, and I've got loads of suggestions for things like that in the book. Things like lots of pestos and herb swirls and halloumi croutons and that sort of thing that are really delicious ways of kind of taking soup up a notch, but in a more achievable way.
Now, it's interesting you've touched on different international cuisines, and I've never really thought about this. With soup, obviously, is a British thing. It can be hearty. You have, I know, Americans, they have that chicken soup, sort of a cure for any kind of illness type approach. I've never really thought about Hawaii or Mexico, whether soup, miso, I suppose, is kind of a soup, isn't it?
Well, this is so interesting. So when I was researching the book, I realised that essentially every country in the world has a soup culture. So I think every country has some kind of soup as part of their repertoire. And someone, a food writer, told me several months ago that Ecuador has something like 300 soups in the national repertoire. I wanted to include a selection of recipes that would be familiar, but also a bit different. I didn't want to sort of it to feel like the readers had come across the material before or could find it elsewhere. I wanted to try and do something a little bit different. And it was actually really hard to round it down to 80 recipes because there is so much inspiration from all around the globe. It's absolutely extraordinary. So I just had to sort of cherry pick some of those countries. I've got, recipes from Ghana, from South America, from Japan, for example. Genuinely global recipes in the book.
Now, you know Dorset well. You grew up here, so you know what it's like shopping. It's getting easier, getting exotic stuff. Can you get what you need for that soup here?
You can. It's actually a sweet potato soup with peanuts, a little bit of peanut butter, ginger, tomatoes, and stock, lots of lovely ingredients.
See, I do like a soup with a bit of a kick.
And that has it. Well, it has a little bit of red chilli in there as well, for just a little background warmth. But that is really delicious. And of course, we have got such fantastic shops locally in Dorset. We're really lucky. But the internet can be so useful for so many specialist ingredients as well. I do find myself reaching to specialist grocers online for ingredients, such as some of the Japanese recipes I needed, some seaweed and that sort of thing, that can be harder to find. Although I did find some in Swanage, actually, I should say, in the health food shop there. But the internet is also your friend for ordering specialist ingredients when shops aren't necessarily that close by.
You've considered the cuisine and the countries from which it comes. What, in producing your 80 recipes, what did you discount because you thought, not doing that, it's a bit too weird, a bit too horrible? Did you come across any soups from hell?
Well, I would say not exactly, but I have some golden rules when it comes to soup making. And I think making a good soup is all about getting, obviously, the flavour fantastic, but also the texture. And for me, soups from hell, if you're going to do something unsuccessful with soup, it's often getting the texture wrong. And some ingredients can go really slimy in a soup. So that's one problem I have with a lot of sort of leftover roast vegetable soups, for example. The texture can be quite gloopy and unpleasant, and I think the texture can be kind of really challenging. There are some ingredients that work well in a soup that need very particular treatment, such as green vegetables. They need to be handled very, very carefully, very sensitively in a soup, so that they don't turn all sort of yellow and a bit sort of sulphurous. Got that sort of overcooked brassica flavour, for example. So it's all about technique, I think, and the ingredients. I didn't have any that were totally awful, but I did bear those principles in mind to give the best results. And there's lots of advice in the book to guide people along the way to make choices that give them the best results.
I've got some foodie friends who will argue for hours about whether you're allowed to put pineapple on a pizza. What should not be in a soup?
Quite a lot of green vegetables can be quite challenging in a soup. Personally, I'm not that keen on something like a cabbage soup or a broccoli soup, for example. They can work if they're done really well, but there's kind of a small window to get it right, and often it's not done correctly. So for me, I would probably take a wide berth on those unless I'm absolutely sure that they've been done very well.
It seems a bit 70s health farm, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it can be fantastic. There's a lovely recipe in the book for a chorizo, tomato and butter bean soup with origins from Eastern Europe, and that has some thinly sliced Savoy cabbage added just at the end. So it's still really green and bright and has a bite. It's a lovely contrast to the other ingredients in the soup. So, as I say, it can be done well, but, it's a question of not sort of boiling cabbage in the soup.
When you come here, what are you going to be doing specifically with your talk? Are you doing tastings?
Always. I really think that's a very important part. So I'm going to be making some soups. I want to show how to do that and to share some of my tips and tricks for the very best results in soup making. I'm going to bring a few pieces of equipment with me to show people what can be helpful. And what I also want to do is to include some of the other recipes in the book, because I've got lots of lovely recipes for additional accompaniments to serve with the soups that really turn it into a special meal. So I've got some absolutely gorgeous breads and lovely bits to go on the side with the soup. So I'm going to make sure that there's a really nice selection of things for everyone to taste, not beyond the soup as well. So soup and accompaniments. So it's really important to me that people have lots to taste as well, because, it's really useful to see recipes being made, but it's also really important to taste them as well. So that's a really important part of the evening.
It seems transformational, Charlotte. So I shall be chucking out all of my crockery and cutlery. I just need a bowl and a spoon from now on.
Keep keep it simple.
That's food writer Charlotte Pike, author of The Soup Solution, sharing why soup deserves more attention and how small changes can make a big difference. She's appearing at Shaftesbury's Kitchen Table Bookshop on Bell Street on Tuesday the 27th of January at 6:30, and you can book your tickets by